Hi guys, I wanted to do a little video today, basically just about notching, the different notches that you can do in a piece of wood and what they can be used for. I mean, there are probably 5 or 6 notches that I use all the time, anywhere from trap building to all kinds of different things, to hanging pots. And well, what I was going to do today was I was going to go over each notch one at a time and just give you some ideas what it can be used for. It's good for practice, you know, like I've got some younger kids that I got my stepson, and then I got some other kids around the house, and it's a good thing to teach them how to do. You know, notching is something that everybody learns from the beginning usually, and once you get good at making certain notches, then you can get good at making you know, just about anything. I mean, let's face it, notches kind of are what make things work as far as being in the woods. So let me get back to you, and we'll go over some notches. I'll be right back. Well, one of the first things you learn as a kid is just to put a point at the end of something. And you know, your basic point can be used as a skewer to cook rabbits, or as a spear point to catch fish. And of course every kid knows how to make one, and depending on what you're going to use it for, you can make it fine or thick or whatever. But the point is that as a kid, this is probably one of the first ones you'll learn. And I'm not going to make this one too pretty because I think everybody knows how to put a point on the end of a stick. But when I'm teaching young kids, you know, this is the one they like to do the most, is to just put a nice point on there. You know, and you can play around with it and get it just about as fine as you want. But anyways, that's like the first notch that anybody ever learns. And it's a basic notch. One of the other notches that people learn, and I'm going to shorten this stick off a little bit. One of the other basic notches, and it's not really a notch, but one of the other basic things that people learn how to do with a stick is to put a nice flat two-sided point onto a stick. And this is important for a lot of your different traps that you'll make. As you progress into the different kinds of notches. And I know somebody's going to say, well, you shouldn't cut towards you, but and you're right, unless you're careful. On some things, if you're careful, you're okay. You'll notice that when I do this, I always put the knife, my thumb here, but even if I went through all the way, I'm never going to get myself. Now if I was over here like this, yeah, you're going to get yourself almost every time. But you keep that thumb back a little bit, and then you can do a little bit of that finer stuff. And of course you can push whenever. And this one here is pretty important when it comes to a figure 4 deadfall and stuff like that, which I don't think is coming into focus, but you know, it's got a nice flat at the end, and it's a two-sided thing. My stick's a little crooked, but I just picked up a stick just to show you guys how it works. So then the next one that you can do is just your plain old-fashioned V-notch. And the V-notch is exactly what it is, a V. And it's good for trap building and stuff like that also. And I just work my way in a little bit at a time. Until you get it down to where you want it. And you notice I'm using just a plain old little pocket knife. And in the old days, that's about all they used when it came to their whittling stuff. They usually kept themselves a nice sharp pocket knife to do the whittling with, and a butcher knife to clean the game with. And that's exactly what they used their two knives for. I don't imagine too many people really carried more than two knives because they were always concerned about weight. And anyways, right there is your basic V-notch. And I hope you guys are getting this. It's right there, just like so. Okay, now let me get back to you here in a second. I'm gonna fix this camera. Okay, I'm back. So right here is your basic V-notch. Of course, you can make it any depth you need, and depending on what you're going to use it for. And the great thing about the V-notch is that with this notch right here, they fit into each other. In fact, I'll show you real quick. I'll just cut the end of the stick off real quick, like so. And one of the main reasons to have a V-notch like this, and then you got your flat notch like this, and you can fit the two in together, and it makes a nice secure joint. And this is one of those ones that you can get a little pivot out of it. It's important for trap building. And of course, on a lot of different traps, you'd make this V fit this V nice and tight. In fact, later on this summer, I'm going to show you how to make a bow drill, or not a bow drill, but a bow saw out of a couple pieces of wood, just using notches like this. And of course, you got to have your saw blade and stuff like that. But you know, and so then the next notch you want to get into is just a plain old square notch, which I will show you here in a second. So I know I said that pocket knives are great knives to use, you know, back in the old days, but nowadays people are into bushcraft, and in bushcraft we use several different kinds of knives for several different jobs. And what I have here is just your plain old basic Mora knife, and I will go ahead and do the square notch with it just to show you guys how to do it. And it's basically just like doing a V-notch. The only thing is you're going straight down in on your work, and then you turn the stick around and you go straight down in on your work again, and then you pop it out. And you just keep doing that until you get to the depth that you want. Now this is a piece of green wood because I just happened to grab it off of a tree, but it works the same with the dry wood. It takes a little longer sometimes, and sometimes with the dry wood you got to do this with your knife and then come in from the middle and pop it out, because a lot of times it doesn't want to. It's not that easy to cut when it's dry and hard. We got lots of oaks around here. Sometimes I make a lot of stuff out of oak because that's what's available. And yeah, it's a little harder to whittle. This here happens to be a piece of willow that came off of a piece of willow tree that I have out here, and you know, it is what it is. Sometimes I think when I'm making little tiny notches and stuff like this, or traps or whatever, I would just as soon use a nice piece of soft wood rather than a hardwood. It's easier to carve, and when you're trying to make lots of trap sets or something like that, it's nice to have that softer wood to do that with, you know. And it probably lasts just as long, but you know, it is what it is. I guess it's all preference when it comes to that stuff. But you just work it out until you get what you want. Now this one I'm going to make really deep. And I know a lot of people say don't use the tippy part of your knife blade, but sometimes when you're trying to get into that smaller area and you're trying to work things out kind of nice, it works. And I'm not going to say you should or shouldn't do something, because you know, a lot of it is whatever works for you. Anyways, and that's a square notch, and this is another notch that's great for putting stuff together. You know, I mean, if you're building like a bow saw, there again, instead of using the V notch, you could use a square notch just as easily. And the square notch, there's lots of traps that you can use this for. The figure 4 trap, a lot of times I'll put a square notch like this on it and kind of cut the sides of it out, which we'll do one of those later, and you end up with something a little more sensitive than you normally have. Okay, so one of the other notches that I like is just a plain old notch that I use to hold string on things. If I'm like say I'm making a gorge hook and I want to put string on the end of it, the next notch is the one I'll use for that, and I will get right back to you and we'll show you that notch. Okay guys, well, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to make this part 1 of the video. The video is running way longer than I wanted it to, so I'm going to make this a 2-part video, only because if it's more than 10 minutes, it takes me a ton of time to download a video onto YouTube. So I'm going to stop here and make this part 1, and then I will do a part 2. So I just wanted to say thank you again, and if you like the videos, like them, subscribe to them, share them, you know, whatever you want to do. But I wanted to thank you guys for your support. Thank you.